Hello, friends. Here's another installment of Bad Pets Hall of Shame. And these are called the Dumb Bunny Medals, or pets who made foolish decisions that risked life and limb. The first one is Christopher, a Labrador retriever. Christopher had never heard the saying, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. So when he found himself in a hole, he kept digging and nearly got buried in his work. In 2015, his owner, Kate Geiger of the New Orleans suburb of Tarrytown, let the 6-year-old lab out to play with her other dog, Taker, in the backyard of the house she had moved into a few months earlier. When she called the dogs to come inside, only Taker returned. Geiger told the newspaper that she thought Christopher might have slipped out because he was an adventurous canine who, on a few occasions, had roamed around the neighborhood. She searched the immediate area but couldn't find him. When she returned home, she heard Christopher's barks, but they seemed muffled. She followed the sounds and discovered they were coming from underneath her concrete patio. I looked under and I could hear him, but I couldn't see him, Geiger told the newspaper. I went and got a light and I saw him really, really far. The dog had tunneled about 12 feet horizontally under the slab because he really dug his job. When he tried to turn around, he was caught between a rock and a hard place. Actually, a piece of cement. Geiger spent about an hour trying to dig him out. When her efforts failed to rescue him, she called the Tarrytown Volunteer Fire Department for help. After hearing about the pooch's dilemma, a crew showed up with shovels. They doggedly dug for the next 2 hours until they reached Christopher and freed him. Despite being trapped for such a long time, Christopher was his goofy self when he emerged from the dungeon he had created. He wagged his tail, licked the faces of his rescuers, and even posed with them for a photo. He's so happy to be inside now, Geiger told the paper. I don't think he's going to go back into that hole. Yes, Christopher was tired of the whole business. The next one is called Bob Bob, and it's about a mixed breed cat. Bob Bob gave new meaning to the phrase, letting the cat out of the bag. He snuggled for a nap in an open suitcase moments before his unaware owner zipped it up. The 14-month-old black cat remained trapped in the luggage, which was flown in the cargo hold of a plane, and didn't get free until 10 hours later. In 2012, the feline's owner, Ethel Mays of Circleville, Ohio, was getting ready for her annual trip to Disney World with family members and several other friends who lived in her residential care home. Early in the morning of the flight, she opened her suitcase to add a last-minute item. That's when Bob hopped in to catch a nap. In her hurry to get to the airport, Mays closed her suitcase without noticing the cat was inside. We have a young man who helps out and gets our luggage ready, and he said it looked like a suitcase was moving, but he thought he was imagining things, Mays told the news. We had been up all night getting ready, so we thought nothing of it. After unknowingly packing himself in his owner's suitcase, Bob survived an hour ride to Port Columbus International Airport, security screenings and x-rays, and a 2-hour flight in a cargo hold. Not sure how the x-ray people didn't notice the cat. But his ordeal wasn't over. Mays and her group arrived in Orlando too early to check into their hotel, so they left the bags at the front desk and went out for some fun. Mays entered her room around 2:30 p.m., about 10 hours later, after she had closed her suitcase. When she opened her bag to hang up her clothes, she spotted something black and furry, something she was sure she hadn't packed. It was her little stowaway. I recognized him right away, but I was afraid he was hurt because he just lay there, Mays told the news. He was very tired and wet from sweating. I picked him up and said to my daughter, "You'll never guess what? Bob, our cat is with us. In my suitcase." He was so scared, he hid for about 7 hours in our hotel room, and only in the middle of the night did he come out and start licking us and purring. Mays had to buy a crate, litter box, and food for Bob, who stayed in the hotel room, and as far away as possible from that suitcase. For the return flight, Bob flew in his crate in the passenger cabin next to his owner. He was so happy to be home after his luggage ordeal, he just couldn't contain himself. And the last one for today is about a Palomino named Phantom. Phantom was responsible for one of the most embarrassing calls ever made to 911. "My horse is stuck in a bathtub." The 30-year-old mare was enjoying some horseplay by dancing around in her stall in Orangeville, California, one day in 2015, when she tripped over an old bathtub that had been converted into her food trough. She stumbled into the tub and landed on her side with all 4 of her legs up. No matter how hard she wriggled, she couldn't escape from her predicament. She just didn't have the horsepower. Her owner, Charles Campbell, and his wife tried to free her, but they couldn't budge her or the tub. In desperation, they called 911 for help. The dispatcher seemed a little confused, Campbell told the TV station. The dispatcher called back a few minutes later and said, "Your husband can't get out of the bathtub?" And my wife says, "No, it's my horse." Firefighters from the Sacramento County Metropolitan Fire District were dispatched to the Campbell's ranch to deal with a horse that had fallen into a bathtub and couldn't get up. Using 2 sturdy pieces of lumber they had brought, they pried the bathtub sideways, allowing Phantom to slip out. She stood up and walked away after being stuck in the tub for 25 minutes. Fortunately, she wasn't hurt, although her ego was probably bruised from the shame of her silly dilemma. "This place never surprises me," Campbell told the TV station. In a Facebook post, fire officials said, "Now Phantom can get back to dancing around the stall." If she could have answered, Phantom would have said, "No, she'll never try that again." She was, after all, a naysayer. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll be back with more later on.